the number of investors who come into the industry will grow by orders of magnitude. And those investors, as they come in, are going to demand a much, much, much more sophisticated level of information. And for the last 6 years, that's what we've built. First 5, we focused on what we call top of the funnel information, right? Conferences like Permissionless and Digital Asset. Podcasts. Anyone listen to any of these podcasts? Good. Right, Empire, Bell Curve, Xerox Research, recently launched Lightspeed, Forward Guidance, On the Margin, this is just a couple of them. Newsletters like our daily newsletter and our research newsletter. Webinars that go really deep on topics like on-chain trading, right, and minimizing risk on-chain with exotic structured products. And of course, the best damn editorial and news team in crypto. So that's what we've been building for 5 years. And last year we felt that the market was finally ready for what we call bottom of the funnel information. More sophisticated information about crypto. And that's why at this very conference last year, we launched Blockworks Research to bring institutional grade analytics and research to crypto. And initially, we launched with research. For anyone who was there, you'll know that we quickly became known around the industry as having the best analysts and the best research in town. And then 6 months later, we launched GovHub to give professional investors and companies real-time access to protocol governance and proposals. And today, Blockworks begins our journey to revolutionize on-chain analytics. And with the introduction of analytics to Blockworks Research, I'm proud to share that I think Blockworks might be the first crypto company, not Ethereum, not Solana, not Cosmos, to solve the trilemma, right? But not that trilemma, the information platform trilemma. World-class research, world-class governance, and world-class analytics. So let's talk about why we're building it. Why we're building, this is a tough problem to solve. It's not like we wanted to go out, hire a bunch of engineers, product people, analysts. This is a tough problem to solve. But when we talked to people, we realized that the state of crypto information platforms was okay. Maybe wasn't great. And there were 4 big problems that we found when we talked to a bunch of our customers. The first problem that we found is that they're just too broad, right? Back in 2017 and 2018, crypto was Bitcoin, it was Ethereum, and it was some recently ICO'd L1s. And a lot of the research platforms that you see on the market today launched in this market. And actually back then, they kind of could cover everything. But today, as you've heard at this conference, crypto it's NFTs, right? It's DeFi, it's on-chain gaming, it's L1s, it's L2s, it's Bitcoin mining, it's modular versus monolithic, it's Arbitrum versus Optimism versus Base versus Solana, right, versus Cosmos. The first problem we found is that research platforms tried to boil the ocean by covering all of this information. And for anyone who's used these platforms, you've probably found that a mile wide and an inch deep. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, not trustworthy. 3 big problems. First problem, some platforms are muddled with sponsored content. You're reading it, you don't know what's sponsored, you don't know what's not. Second problem, others have some kind of clear conflict of interest with their investment arms. And others have data that is in dashboards that are generated by users and never actually vetted, leaving you unsure of what is right and what is wrong. And any way you slice it, with all 3 of these options, they lead to you, the customer, not really knowing what you can and cannot trust. So that's problem number 2, not trustworthy. Problem number 3, bad UI, bad UX. And I'm not really sure what happened here, but somewhere along crypto's journey, we thought it was cool to have bad UI and bad UX. And when you open these platforms, you kind of just have a bunch of information that isn't organized too well, isn't really coherent. It feels like they've just thrown a bunch of mess against the wall. But when you throw a bunch of mess against the wall, you're kind of just left with a messy wall, right? Users have no idea what to look for, where to look, and I'm sure a lot of you have felt this. Ultimately, you just kind of resort back to like CoinGecko or something like that. 4th big problem, just too expensive. Most platforms today charge you an arm and a leg. And for the biggest funds, maybe like the Andreessens of the world, this is okay. But for the long tail of funds, or maybe even just the prosumer investor, these fees can crush you. And for us, that just didn't make sense. So let me summarize here. Some platforms on the market are too broad, some aren't trustworthy, some have bad UI and bad UX, and some are just too damn expensive. I see a lot of folks out there kind of nodding their head. Nod your head if you agree with any of this. So when we set out to build Blockworks Research, right, with the industry's best research, best data and analytics, best governance tracking, we didn't want to just build another platform on the market, right? We didn't want to just build something that's powerful or intuitive to use. What we wanted to do is make a leapfrog improvement. We wanted to build a platform that is so much better, so much more powerful, so much easier to use, you could not possibly imagine not using it. And that's what Blockworks Research is, right? So we're going to revolutionize crypto research and analytics. Big lofty goal we set out to do a while ago. How do we go about doing that? Do we, hire a bunch of devs, start building the data platform? No, we don't do that. Do we hire a bunch of writers or something? No, we don't do that. We started with the backbone. We started with the people. We hired the most in the weeds, in the forums, data-capable analysts we could find. And then instead of having them write about anything across the industry, right, having this broad problem, we went narrow. We went really, really narrow. We decided to just focus on DeFi, things like L1s, L2s, DeFi apps. And each of our analysts is only focused on covering a few protocols. Why so little? So they can cover their protocols better than anyone in the industry. Once we had the people, then we could create the product. And the product is three things. It's research, it's governance, and as of today, it's analytics. How are we feeling about this so far? I'll use this as gotta recover the old voice for a second. So, let's start with analytics, I think. So, early in the year, we realized that investors still didn't have this reputable place to access specifically protocol analytics and on-chain data. And let me give you some examples of this, right? Let's say you want to find out the retention rate of Curve's users, or how many users did Uniswap have last week compared to last month, compared to 90 days ago, and how many of those users are actually sticking around, and how does that actually tie into the profitability of Uniswap? Or let's say you want to find out the revenue of Arbitrum, or maybe better yet, the profitability of Arbitrum compared to the profitability of Optimism since both of their token drops. Previously, here's how this would have worked. You would have kind of had to pray that there's a Dune dashboard, and if you found the Dune dash, you'd have to hope that the random anon who built it is very skilled with SQL, right? Understands how to build on crypto data, understands how protocols work, and keeps the dashboard updated every single day. And then, once realizing that this rarely exists, you'd start wishing you had a data analyst on your team. What we found is that in 9 out of 10, or really like 95 out of 100 cases that we encountered, that couldn't happen, so this data just wouldn't get reviewed. And you wouldn't be able to find it, the data, and you definitely wouldn't be able to make allocation decisions based on that data. So we set out to fix that. And today, I'm excited to announce, as you saw in that video, we have spent the past year collecting and sourcing data and integrating all of this on-chain data into Blockworks Research, introducing Blockworks Analytics, your single source of truth for on-chain data. For the first time ever, thank you. Should have come up with like a sexier slide than this. This is kind of lacking, but that's okay. I'll show you guys the product in a second. For the first time ever, here's what you can do. You can now have professionally vetted and updated protocol and sector dashboards where you know the information and data is reputable. It's a single source of truth for you to look at protocol financials, user metrics, and the health of a network. Let me show you some examples of what we can do here. So this is the platform. I'll try to show you guys here. You can look at a bunch of different protocols. We're launching with Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, Polygon, BNB, Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, and we've got a lot more coming soon that I'll talk about. And then there's 3 tabs for each protocol: financials, on-chain activity, and data, right? Health of the network, health of the token, things like that. So if you look at, I just had to clip this and screenshot it, but if you look at this one, I thought this one was interesting. You've got Ethereum staking yield. And what you can see is that the staking yield is actually going down over time. And we've actually broken this out for you into, the yield is broken out into issuance, fees, and MEV. Really interesting chart to look at. The second one that I really like is, anyone a fan of Base? Coinbase, Jesse Pollock and crew. So we actually have been looking at Base data, and we've collected a ton of Base data. We've got the green right here are the transaction fees of Base. The red are the costs of Base, right? The cost that Base has to pay to settle back to the L1. And the black, when you take the green minus the red, the profitability minus the cost, what you're left with is the profit, right? Fees minus the cost, that black line, you've got the profit. So you can actually look at the exact profitability by the day of Base. And the third is Solana. I was looking at the on-chain data of Solana last night. You can start to see this kind of redemption arc and this resurgence of Solana again in some of this data, so it's really, really interesting to look at. So each dashboard has multiple tabs where you can see financials, user data, metric data. Cool? Do we like that? Good. So we obviously could have stopped there. We could have just added some more dashboards. We could have launched with more protocols and things like that. But of course, we didn't. We took it one step further. We thought, what else is a complete pain in the ass to look at on-chain? And for us, it's comparing protocols to protocols, L2s to L2s, DEX to DEX, right? It's nice to look at that base data, but how are they doing compared to Arbitrum? How are they doing compared to Optimism? We call these sector dashboards. Look what you can do. I'll show you two examples, so then you guys can play with the product later on. One is you can actually look at the price to sales ratio and the price to earnings ratio of Optimism compared to Arbitrum. In the top right, you can actually see the PE ratio of Optimism and Arbitrum converging over time, which is this kind of like rare moment of efficiency in crypto markets. I thought that was a cool thing to look at.